Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of A Yarn Tale. This is a knitting podcast. My name is Karen, and I'm coming to you from Chicago, where I live with my husband, our 3 kids, and our very noisy dog, Max. Great. So, it's been about 2 weeks since the last podcast. Shaky. And I have a lot to show you, so let's get right into it. You guys, I have a couple of FOs, which is kind of a miracle. My first one is my daughter's cardigan. Well, it's almost done. I have buttons coming in the mail, so when they get there, I'm gonna deal with the buttonhole situation, and so I'm on, hopefully. Never done that, hopefully it works out. So this cardigan is from Sirdar. It's the family cardigan 8225. It's just a really basic, I'm gonna try to hold it together so you can see. It's a really basic raglan, knit in pieces and then sewed together. So you start at the bottom up. Here we go, knit the back. There's some ribbing at the bottom. And then you knit your 2 front pieces and the sleeves and sew them all up. And then pick up stitches for the button band on both sides and for the collar all the way around the top. So this was my first cardigan. It was my first item knitted bottom up. My first time seaming things and my first time picking up for a button band. I think it went pretty well. I knit it to the pattern size, the pattern dimensions, and it pretty much came out that way. It's a little bit big for my daughter. She's 6, but she's a tiny 6. So I think it'll be good for the fall. It should fit her. This is knit out of Quince & Company's Chickadee, their sport weight. I cast on in the lime color. It's actually called Leek. And then after I did the cast on or the bind off, depending on which edge it was, I knit the rest of it, the main color, in sorbet. I think it went pretty well. There's a couple things. I didn't modify the pattern at all because I don't know how to knit a cardigan, so I didn't really feel qualified to modify. So I just knit it exactly as the pattern suggested, with a couple of exceptions, and I think I probably should have not done these. I picked up my button band and I did my ribbing in the same size needle as the body of the sweater, mainly because I could not find a needle that was suitable. I think whatever the needle size down in my interchangeable set was being used for something else. So I was like, does it really matter? Probably not. But now that I look at it, the ribbing is a little bit floofy. I don't know, it's a little bit wider than I would have liked. So I think if I would have just followed the directions, probably would have turned out a little bit better. But I don't think it's wrecked. One thing that worked out a little bit better that I was worried about. So I did the green in the cast on. So when I cast on at the bottom of the ribbing, I cast on in the green and then I knit the piece, the back, or the front. But then when I did the button band, I did my green as the bind off because that's the edge that I wanted. But then there's gonna be this little section at the top that's not a bind off edge right there. So I bound off in the collar in the green and then I bound off in the button band, but there was this little section between the collar and the button band that wasn't green. It was just, the edge of the ribbing. And I was like, how am I gonna make that look green? Because it showed up in 4 places. It was the 2 tops of the collars and then the 2 bottoms of the button band right there, the edge of the ribbing, and on the other side as well. And I watched some tutorials about duplicate stitch and I'm not that precise. I don't know, I couldn't quite get it. So I just kind of made it up. I just took a scrap of the green and kind of went over. And if you look really close, it looks kind of ad hoc, but I think from afar, or even from like a moderate distance, it'll pass. Right? It's a child sweater. It's not like it has to be high fashion. So I like the way it looked. I think it looks intentional and there aren't any weird spots without the green edging. I will say a couple of things. I have never seamed a garment before, so my mattress stitch got much better as I went along. So pretty. But seaming up a garment, even a child-size garment with a different colored edging, results in literally 48 ends. I counted them because I finished it and it was just this spider web of ends everywhere. So I wasn't really anticipating that. It kind of took forever to weave them all in, but I did it. I weaved them in. I don't think it looks pretty good. I mean, there's these pretty big seams on the inside, so it's not that hard to hide your ends. There were just 1,000 of them. So I don't know if I've been converted into an advocate of seamed garments. It just seemed like a lot of finishing work as opposed to a top down where you're just like, you're done with it and you got maybe 10 ends and weave them in and block it in, you're good to go. So I don't know. I do think it was pretty successful. She was super excited about it and was a little bit bummed out that it was big, but I think in the fall she's actually gonna wear it, which is a plus. I ordered bigger lime green buttons because the ones I had originally purchased were way too small for this button band, so I'm trying to find the holes. So I think my buttonholes are still gonna have to be tidied up a little bit because they're a little bit, you can tell it's my first attempt. They were knitted in. But I'm gonna wait for the bigger buttons to come just to see how much smaller I need to make them, or if maybe I won't. Maybe they'll fit right in and it'll all magically work out and I won't have to do any sort of crochet around. I'm hoping, because I've watched some tutorials about crocheting around buttonholes and I don't know, you guys. I got a crochet hook. I'm gonna try it if I have to. If I have to try it, I'll crochet around and sort of tidy up the buttonholes, but I'm hoping that I won't have to do that. Okay, so that's my first FO, but you guys, I have another FO. And this was kind of a surprise cast on. Sometimes when I'm working on a lot of longer term projects like sweaters or longer shawls or whatever, I just kind of get to a point where I want to finish something, anything. And usually at that point I'll cast on a hat. So I cast on this hat it's the Mount Jasper hat by Jodi Brown of Mrs. Brown's Bags of Grocery Girls fame. And it's just a sport weight hat with some slip stitches, kind of a mosaic knitting type thing. And I just used scraps from my stash. So the white is leftover Cloudborn, I think it's merino, that I had originally used in that baby bonnet from a few episodes ago. And then the colored stripes are just leftover bits from my shift cowl. It's Primrose Sport in the colorways Emerald Midnight, which is the brighter green one, Where Is My Mind, which is sort of the brownie green one, and then Tabloid Gossip. And there's supposed to be 4 colors, but I just kind of rotated them around and I think it worked pretty well. It knit up super fast, and hats are so gratifying because they only take a couple days. I'm a slow knitter, so they do take a few days, but I mean, come on, you don't have to swatch. I mean, you should, but I never do. And it usually works out. And I don't know, maybe I'll throw a pom-pom on there. I'm not gonna wear it forever because now it's 80 degrees in Chicago. But you know, yay, done and done. And I will say I haven't been knitting that long, so I've never knit any sort of object with scraps from my projects. I haven't really had enough scraps to make anything. Or, you know, I've always been right down to the wire and pretty much used up all the yarn that I had. And I feel so virtuous using these scraps. I was like, look at me, like using up things that I already have. I didn't even have to buy new things for this project. That I kind of became obsessed with trying to use up all my scraps. So I actually have a new cast on that's a scrappy project because once I gathered up all my scraps, I split them up into my fingering weight scraps and I had some sport weight scraps. I was like, oh, I have to use these because this is so exciting. Plus I love these yarns. I mean, I bought them because I like them. So like, why not use them up? So I have a new cast on. It's a tiny little cast on. right here. And I believe I'm the last person on earth to knit this because everyone has knit this. This is a Habitation throw by Helen Stewart. It is just a, I mean, now I get why everybody and their brother has knit this pattern, because it's super simple. I've already memorized it and I'm only the tiniest way in. It's basically garter sections with an eyelet row, you know, every few rows or so. And you do these increases on the end. There's like a knit on I-cord edging. It's not a bind off. Thank God. I'm still scarred by the I-cord bind off of my Hisho shawl. So I don't know, I have very little interest in doing that for a while. But this is just a garter with eyelets, and you can kind of change colors whenever you want. So I did some thicker stripes, I did some thin ones, and I'm just alternating a whole bunch of extra fingering weight scraps that I have. So what do I have? I have a few here that I can show you. But it's been really fun collecting them and seeing how I can use them in. So this is some leftover yak sock that I have. This is from a Hisho shawl of Movers and Makers. This is more sock yarn. This is actually a scrap from this project here. I forgot to talk about what I'm wearing. What I'm wearing is called the, hang on, I always have to look this up. This is a test knit that I did. It's called the Dreamwalker Cowl Kerchief by Winter's Weather Knits. Her name is Jodi, and she makes some really beautiful garments and accessories. And so this one's just a cowl, but it comes to a point in the front, so it's kind of a kerchief. It's all linen stitch, and then you mattress seam it up in the back. And again, at the time that I did this, I was definitely not good at mattress seam, so it's a little bit sad and uneven, but you can't see it, it's in the back. And so it's linen stitch, which I had never test knit. No, I test knit one other thing. It was a tiny shawlette, which I'll show you at some point. But I chose this because it was a smaller item, and compared to what I can tell from other people who test knit, I'm on the slower side. And also I have other things to do. So I don't know if these people are able to knit like all day or if they're just lightning fast, because these ladies blew through this test knit. Like, I was only halfway done and they were posting finished object photos, and I had my yarn already. So I don't know how they do it. Linen stitch I had never done before. It's basically like you're hand weaving every individual stitch. Like, the yarn has to go in front and then it goes in back, and then you slip some stitches and then you work some stitches, and it's just like slow going. I mean, if I didn't have a time schedule, it would be kind of relaxing, but trying to power through linen stitch was like, oh my God, this is taking so long. These ladies are already done and I'm like barely eking it out to the deadline. I mean, I made it. If I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna meet your deadline, but it was down to the wire. But I do love, I don't know, I had never seen linen stitch. I mean, everything's new for me, so no surprise, but I had never seen the kind of fabric that linen stitch makes. It's so pretty. It's like a woven fabric, which one of these days I'm gonna get a loom, because I love woven fabric, but one thing at a time, right? I can't do the knitting and the weaving and the dyeing and all the things. Like, before you know it, I'm gonna have my own sheep and like, I don't even know, the spinning. So one thing at a time. Stick to the knitting, get the knitting done, and then I'll move on. But I do love the look of linen stitch, and I would love to do another project with it that wasn't on a deadline, because it made it a little bit stressful when I think it actually wouldn't naturally be that way. But I get a lot of wear out of this. I just throw it under a jacket. It's pretty light. I mean, the fabric is pretty floppy. So it's not super warm. It's more of like a fashion statement. So that was really great. But it kind of made me think maybe I should chill out with the test knits and get a little bit stronger in my knitting before I start trying to make everything in my life be on a deadline. Okay, so I did my Habitation throw. What else do we got going on? That's all my FOs. Okay, so let's do some whips, right? Let's do some whips. I made a decent amount of progress. I worked a lot on my EDT by Isabell Kraemer, and I'm gonna hold these needles here so they don't fly, my stitches don't fly off the needles, because this linen yarn is slippery. Okay, well, maybe I'll let them go so you can see. Cross your fingers that this doesn't all slip off. This is the EDT by Isabell Kraemer. It's knit in Quince & Company Sparrow, which is 100% linen. And I'm down to the 4th stripe. So it's a V-neck, and I put it on some cables and tried it on, and it fits pretty good. The V-neck hits in a good spot. It's not too low, it's not too high, and even if it shrinks or grows or does something weird when I block it, I think it'll still work out. It's in a good middle spot, so that's good. I'm on the I'm on the 4th textured stripe going down, and I think I've only got probably 2 more after this, so hopefully I'll be able to get through the body by the time of the next podcast. It goes pretty quickly because it is just stockinette in the round in between the stripes, and even the stripes themselves are pretty short, and it's just some slip stitches. I do think my gauge is evening out now that I'm at the bottom of the garment. So the hemline will look really nice and even. I'm hoping that the top part of it kind of smooths out in the blocking, but even if it doesn't, I love the color, and I think it's just a nice light t-shirt for summer. There's some short row shaping at the bottom, and I think there might even be a split hem. I don't know, I gotta look at it. There's some sort of something going on at the hem that I might just omit, because I just really like a simple t-shirt. The sleeves are super short, so I think once I get to the bottom of the body, it's mostly done. I just gotta, go around a few times on the sleeves and decide whether I wanna do the optional neckline treatment. You can pick up your stitches all the way around and knit a few rows just to sort of tighten it up. I don't know. After the cardigan, I'm sort of over picking up stitches for a bit, but maybe I'll have to try it on and see how it looks. I'll do it. I'll do it if I need to tighten up the V-neck, but for now it looks pretty decent. And the pattern photo, I'll show you. The pattern photo here says this photo does not include the neck treatment, and I don't think that looks bad. I mean, I would take that. So I don't know, I'm gonna see how I feel when I get to the end of it. That's my EDT, it's coming along. I also am working on, ooh, don't slip. I'm always worried I'm gonna drop stuff off my needles. I'm also working on, I'm gonna take this off so I can show you. Working on the Copenhagen cardigan by PetiteKnit. I worked on this a lot and it just does not really show. I don't know, here, let me put it on. So it's top down, and you do your raglan increases and you knit some ribbing for kind of a faux button band type of effect. And I was hoping to get to the part where you separate for sleeves, but I'm just not there. I've got a few more raglan increases to do, and then I can separate for sleeves and knit the body back and forth. And then the sleeves and whatever. This is part of a Cowl. It's the Happee Cardi Cowl, run by Yolanda and Jordan over at the Happee Knits podcast. So I really want to get going on this. I think the deadline runs in the middle of July or the end of July, sometime in July. So I think I'm in pretty good shape. I got kind of distracted by my EDT and some shiny new cast-ons, so I didn't make quite as much progress as I would have liked, but it's respectable. It's respectable. So that is my Copenhagen cardigan by PetiteKnit, and I only have one other whip, I believe. Let me check. Yeah, I think so. Okay, so my one other whip is my Schneeflocken sweater. The Schneeflocken sweater is by Sarah Solomon, and it is colorwork yoke, and then there's colorwork at the hem and colorwork at the base of the sleeves. It's knit bottom up. So this is my first sleeve, and I'm knitting this out of Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the colorway Pumpernickel, that's the dark one, and Fossil, that's the light. So I knit a swatch the last time and it came out a little bit too tight, and I just didn't have it in me to knit yet another swatch, much less a swatch in stockinette. So somebody commented that some people knit the sleeves and use those as a swatch. And I was like, that's genius. So I went up a needle size. So these are on 3s, US 3s, and I cast on for the sleeve in the size that I'm pretty sure is the right size for me. It'll have a decent amount of positive ease, but the pattern has a decent amount of positive ease, and it's a sweater, so I don't want it to be super tight. This isn't the type of sweater I'd want to be really fitted. My Magnolia sweater is more fitted, but this one I think is gonna be, it's non-superwash, so I kind of want it to be a little bit more rustic-y, I'm not going for like a tailored look. So I cast on in the 3s and I did my ribbing. The cuff, okay, so the pattern says that the cuff is knit really wide so that it doesn't cinch in, and they're not joking. Like this cuff, I reduced the number of stitches by about 6 stitches, so that's 3 whole ribs, and it's still like super wide. But I'm just going with it. That's how they want it, and I like the look of the pattern picture, so I'm just gonna do that. I did go up a needle size for the color work, and it still cinches in a little. I mean, you can see like right here where there's the most intricate color work, it's a little bit more narrow than the top and the bottom, but I don't really mind. I'm trying to be kind to myself because I haven't done that much color work. I've done smaller items, but I've never done a sweater or any kind of garment. And I figure I'm never gonna get good at it unless I just do it. So it's not the most amazing example of stranded knitting, but it's not embarrassing. And maybe it'll stretch out a little when I block it, or maybe it won't. I mean, if it cinches in a little, what I was mostly worried about is, sometimes you're knitting color work and the stitches just pull in because your floats are too tight and you really can't see the pattern as well as you'd like because they're pulled behind into the background. Even if you have them for the dominant color, sometimes my floats are too tight and you really can't see. And that really didn't happen here. I mean, you can see the pattern. So my tension is a little weird. It's kind of loose there and it's kind of tight here, but like, I'm trying, you guys. And I'm gonna be the one wearing it, and nobody but a knitter would notice that it looks like that. And I'm hoping it will improve as I go along. Maybe my second sleeve will look way better, or the hem, or maybe it won't. I don't know. I don't really mind. I think I'm doing all right. I'm not gonna rip it out because I can't do better than this. This is like my 3rd attempt, and it's not gonna get any better than this right now. This is where I'm at, and we're learning, and I still think it looks good. So that is that. It actually went faster than I anticipated, because when I knit the swatch, my swatch took me like 5 days. So I was worried that the sweater itself would take 5 years. But the sleeve goes pretty quickly. I mean, there's only 23 or 25 rows of color work, and then you're basically doing stockinette on DPNs, which I can do that forever. So kind of just when I wanted to die, it changed. So I'm hopeful that the hem feels the same way. You get through that hem chart, which is a little bit longer than the sleeve chart. I don't remember what it was. I did it for my swatch. I think it was in the 30 rows or something, 35 rows. But once you get through the hem chart, you have that big stockinette section in the middle just to sort of catch your breath. And then I gotta deal with the yoke. But by that point, after 2 sleeves and a hem, maybe my color work prowess will be better, right? It could happen. I'm hoping it will happen. And by the time I get to the yoke, I won't want to stab myself with my knitting needles. But then I'm almost at the end, right? And you're decreasing, so the number of stitches will get less. So I'm setting myself up for success. I think it's gonna work. Anyway, this is my Schneeflocken. I'm pleased with the progress I made, and I'm hopeful that I can get through the sleeve by the next podcast, because then I get to do a second sleeve. Wasn't the best. Oh wait, there was one more thing I wanted to say about the Schneeflocken. So I had some trouble in my swatch. Hang on, I've got my swatch. I had some trouble in my swatch with the darker color showing through when I caught my floats, and I found that super irritating. And I read a lot about it, and I tried to fix it, and I just can't get it. I can always see them. Even if I alternate where I catch the floats, I can always just see it behind. I don't know if it's because the contrast is so great or if I'm doing something weird with my tension, but I can't get it. So I was watching the Gentle Knitter, who I also love. She has such an amazing, calm presence about her that I always think, yeah, I'm gonna do that. And then I'm just not that way. So not gonna do that. I can't do that even if I pretend. But she was knitting something, a colorwork sweater, and she just didn't catch the floats. And she was like, oh, you don't have to. You can if you want to, but you don't have to catch the floats. Like, if you don't want to, don't do it. And I was like, it's very empowering. Like, yeah, I don't have to. I'm not gonna. So I didn't catch my floats in the back. I don't even know if I can turn this inside out without ripping it off my deep pants. But, okay, so I did catch them on my first row, and you can see it. So annoying. But it's only literally 4 or 5 times. Like, look at that. What's that? I don't know. I don't like that. So once that happened, I was like, oh, the Gentle Knitter is right. I'm skipping it. So I didn't catch my floats anywhere else, and I love it. Look, you can't even see. Up there, those are super long floats. Who cares? I'm the one wearing it. I'm not gonna catch my rings on that. I'll be super gentle. But look how long these are. They're so long. Whee. Hi. It's my secret that's on the inside of my sleeve. It's gonna be on the inside of my hem. Nobody's gonna know, nobody's gonna care, and it's gonna look way better. Don't catch floats. Catching floats is for lamos or for people who have way more skills than I do. Be like me. Don't catch your floats. Good. That was good. What else do I have? Oh, okay. So I don't have any more whips. I don't have any more finished objects. That's kind of the end of the knitting. But if you remember, the last time we talked, I was planning on doing a natural dyeing experiment with avocado pits because I watched some video where some woman made this most amazing, beautiful, blushy pink dye with avocado. So I did the deep dive into how to dye with avocados. I saved all my pits and skins, and I actually just decided to go with the pits because the internet said that pits make the best pink shade. So I'm like, I'm doing the best. Like, who cares about the skins? I'm doing the pits. So I had 8 or 9 pits, and I was only gonna do a single skein. So I washed my yarn. I got some Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, which is 100% non-superwash worsted weight yarn that's undyed. And I washed it, and I was really careful not to felt it, and it dried. I decided not to mordant it because avocado pits have natural tannins in them that's supposed to act like a mordant, and I figured it's one less thing. So I didn't do that. Maybe that was my problem. I don't know. But then I made the dye. I was super slow about it. So a lot of places said if you overheat your dye, it'll turn brown, and I didn't want that. So for 4 days, I just put the pits in a big pot of water and then kind of heated it up to steaming for an hour and then cooled it down. And I did that 4 times, and the water did turn like a dark color. So okay. So then on the 4th day, when the dye bath was cool, I put my yarn in, and before I put the yarn in, I added some baking soda because the lady who made the really pink dye said that alkaline dye baths are pinker. So I was like, yes, that's what I want. So I put some baking soda in there, and I don't know if it changed the color. It didn't seem like it to me, but I put it in there anyway. So I put the yarn in and I heated it up a little because I was worried about felting. And I just left it in there for 48 hours. I got the most underwhelming dye skein, or skein of yarn. You guys check this out. That's not pink. The internet lied again. It's like meh. It's meh color. I would call it, if I were a dyer and I needed a colorway for this, I would call it nailed it. This is horrible. No one would ever buy this. No one would ever go for this. It's like the most anticlimactic dye experiment ever. I don't know why it happened. I did everything I could think of to do. I followed all the directions. I did not rush. I did not overheat it. And it still was just like, nope, no. So, hang on, it's a little bit tangly. Actually, the ties that came on the skein are a little bit better. You're never gonna be able to see that, but they're a little bit darker and slightly more interesting. I would have preferred if the actual yarn looked like that. So, whatever. I'm not gonna waste it. I do have extra mohair. I have an extra skein of mohair from my no frill sweater. This is Filcolonatilia, which is 70% mohair, 30% silk. And this is the colorway Peach Blossom. I also, when I was ordering for this, I wasn't paying attention and I bought peach. Oops. It's the same thing, Filcolonatilia, 70% mohair, 30% silk, in a different colorway. So I could, I think if I do the Peach Blossom, it'll marl into something interesting. I'm gonna try it out. Or I could just go full blah and knit a peach hat, but it'll be a peach fuzzy hat. I don't know, you guys, it was really disappointing. Never fear, I'm saving onion skins, so hopefully I'm gonna try that because I'm not one to be deterred. So I'm gonna continue. Also, I bought 6 skeins of this and some of the superwash mohair, or DK, some kind of DK merino. So I gotta do some more or I'm, just gonna have a whole bunch of undyed yarn. So I'm gonna try something else. Hopefully it'll turn out slightly better than this. I was watching, what was I watching? I was watching the Fat Squirrel, which is just, Amy Beth, it's just amazing. But she was knitting a hat by Olga Buraya-Kefelian of He Show Shell fame, and I love it. And I was thinking maybe I would knit my hand-dyed yarn into this hat. It's the Roku hat. It's a ribbed, all over ribbing, so like all over ribbing. But I could do it with worsted and a mohair, and I think I could get pretty close to gauge. You can do a shorter one or a longer one. I don't know if you can actually see that. She has really amazing clips and brooches and whatever else. I'm not gonna put that on there, but I think I could make that into like some sort of fuzzy hat that I would wear that doesn't seem like a complete mistake. I don't know. I was gonna cast it on and then I was like, shoot, I should probably show it for the podcast before I get right into using it. Mostly I just wanna fix it because it looks so sad. It's the saddest color. Like I almost should over dye it, except I don't know how to do that. Clearly, I do not know how to dye things. So I'm just gonna use it. Mohair fixes a multitude of sins. So I really wanted to say thank you for all the new subscribers that we have. It's been kind of bananas. When I started this podcast, I thought it would just be my mom and maybe a couple of her friends that knit. And that puts my subscriber count at about 5. But we have over 350 subscribers, so I don't know who those other 345 people are, but you guys are so nice. I really love seeing all your comments, and you're so helpful with the buttonholes and, solidarity. Knitting is crazy, and it really just frequently does not work out. So it's nice to talk to somebody else who has been there, who, like, what is happening? It's nice to commiserate. So I really appreciate that. I'm so glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you came back. And if this is your first video, welcome. Join the fun. If you want to connect in some other way, I'm on Instagram as Not Fancy Knitter. That's KNOT Fancy Knitter. I'm also on Ravelry, although I don't usually do a lot of forums. I always want to, but then it never really happens. I do project pages. So if you're interested in getting some more information about things that I'm working on, that's usually there somewhere. Maybe not right away, but definitely by the end of the project, I'll get something up. And then I would love to hear from you. If you comment below or subscribe or share the video or whatever. I'm pretty bad at YouTube. So if there's other ways to connect, let me know. I would be happy to do it. I hope you have a lovely week. I'll try to check in a couple weeks or so and hopefully have made some progress. I hope you make progress on your projects and hope you enjoy this nice weather. We've got some good stuff going on. So thanks for watching. Happy knitting. Come on, Max. Hi. You like podcasting?